There are so many more questions to ask about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. But even more importantly, there is so much Donald Trump does not want you to hear, including leaked audio caught on a hot mic that exposes the full truth of that night. The truth the mainstream media doesn't want to pay attention to, doesn't want to talk about, and will wag their finger at you, calling you a conspiracy theorist if you dare raise it. It's outlandish to question if the event honoring reporting on the Epstein files was fishy, that an administration protecting predators might stage an event to protect itself. We're going to get into that hot mic audio, but it all begins with what Republicans are pushing, insisting that what happened on Saturday is set in stone. We can't question it. We just have to accept what they're feeding us. I'm not going to. Calling out Lindsey Graham, if you don't think $400 million of taxpayer money is a good investment to create a secure facility at the White House, where the president, vice president, cabinet, and public can gather without what happened Saturday, then I disagree. The number one job of the federal government is national security, and I think the number one job of national security is to protect the commander-in-chief and to have infrastructure beneath the ballroom that is security-focused. So I say, just vote. That's all I ask. Vote. I don't care how you vote. I just want to see where America stands. I'll bet 90% of people would love a better facility than the Hilton Hotel to make sure this never happens again. I can't tell you what to say on the Senate floor, but I've never seen anything like this. There are people out there just one click away from picking up a gun and trying to make America better by killing. You don't make America great by killing people you don't like. That's not how you make America great. The most important word Lindsey used was taxpayer. Taxpayer money. Now that $400 million, it started as $200 million and grew to $400 million, was always private money. Donations from billionaires who received enormous tax cuts from Donald Trump. Corporations paying zero in taxes. Like Palantir, Amazon, they were generous enough to toss us a little crumb, a few $1 million for the ballroom. And now suddenly, it's taxpayer money. Republicans, in their push to make sure the ballroom gets built, aren't focused on approval as much as they are on the cash. So Donald Trump survives an assassination attempt, and $400 million in dark money from donors we know nothing about just walks away with him. Yeah, that seems like a little more than suspicious, especially with this audio we're about to get into, and especially with Todd Blanche saying this beforehand. When you have a president, and many people in this room, if we're being honest, have done it too. They're just as guilty as a lot of people on X. When you have reporters, when you have media being overly critical and calling the president horrible names without evidence, without proof, it shouldn't surprise us that this type of rhetoric takes place. If you look at what it appears this individual had in his background, we're talking about someone who is college educated, who had a job, who was otherwise living a normal life. We'll find out more about him in the coming days and weeks. But he made the choice he made. Our threat environment is something we are always prepared for. This was something we will always be ready for. And it's unfortunate that it has to happen, but it's not a new thing. Oh, interesting. So now we're not even allowed to say critical things about the president. That's the real problem, apparently. Nothing else. The takeaway they want us to walk away with is that you're not allowed to say harsh things about the president. That is the narrative they want to push. That it should be illegal to call Donald Trump what he is, an adjudicated rapist. You're not allowed to say those words about Donald Trump. And if you do, you're supposedly threatening his life, and should be treated like a criminal. That's what they're saying. But the truth of that night is that more reporting needs to be done on Donald Trump's crimes. The truth of that night is that Donald Trump will go as far as he possibly can, including staging a shooting, to protect himself. And the truth of the night is captured right here. The Tennessee Holler shared a clip from Fox 5 in Washington, D.C. This hot mic audio is remarkable. Local reporters were overheard remarking on how lax the security was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner red carpet. I love that they have two random women just holding the front door open. Where's the security? We're not even trying anymore. They're not even Secret Service people. It's just the staff who work here holding the door. They might as well put a doorstop in. They put up a doorstop and a scarecrow. People at the event were questioning the security situation before anything even took place. And we now have new reporting from the Washington Post confirming that the White House deliberately allowed this to be a lower security event. Some of you may have seen my video coverage from Saturday night. I was in a tux. Some people asked whether I had attended the dinner. Absolutely not. I was attending a separate event with Substack and MSNBC. But I was in that general area, and hopefully I'm not giving too much away. But I live close enough that I stopped at a local bar nearby, and I did not see the level of security you would expect at an event of that magnitude. I also attended Donald Trump's State of the Union address earlier this year, not inside the building, but I was speaking with members of Congress before and after. That event was on complete lockdown. Many of the same people were at both events, and the difference was stark. So this hot mic audio matters. Everyone knew it. Everyone in that room could feel that something was off. Everyone was talking about it. And then there's this, I'm just going to play the audio because it speaks for itself. I was sitting next to Caroline Leavitt's husband, the press secretary's husband. He was one of our guests, seated right next to me. And right as the dinner was starting, after the national anthem, he leaned over and said, "I watch you on TV. You do a great job. You need to be very careful." He was very serious when he said it. He looked around the room and said, "You know, there are some... Sounds like we lost Aisha's connection there, which happens when that many people are trying to use cell service. But I want to add this while we have a moment. Caroline Leavitt's husband, moments before the shooting, was reportedly telling a Fox reporter to be careful. Things are about to get intense." And as the reporter was relaying that story live on air, Fox mysteriously cut her off. That's more audio worth investigating. But here's the real point. We know what the truth of that night was, staged or not, and the reporting remains conflicting. It certainly appears that the White House, at minimum, wanted something to happen. If you're not going to put security in place, you're essentially inviting an incident. So, even if you won't go as far as calling it staged, you cannot deny that the White House was allowing the conditions for something to occur. Now, the room itself was heavily secured. So perhaps the calculation was, someone gets through the outer doors, gets apprehended, and it becomes a moment. And notably, the gunshots didn't even happen inside the venue. Let's be clear about that. I'm not trying to minimize the fear that people in that room felt. And frankly, I wish there were this much concern about the threats school children face every single day. But the incident happened outside. So maybe the thinking was, keep it loose out there. Let the stunt play out in the street. And then watch as Donald Trump is dramatically rushed out, as if someone had a scope on him, when of course, that was not the case. There are just a lot of questions that need to be raised. If your first instinct was to roll your eyes and say, "This is fake. This is staged." Valid. Marjorie Taylor Greene called Butler a hoax 5 days before this. If your second instinct was, maybe not outright staged, but they were at least comfortable letting something like this happen, they clearly didn't care about security. Also completely valid. That's exactly what both of those audio clips are showing. The hot mic caught what everyone in that room was already thinking. Something is off. This is strange. And since then, people have been thinking the same thing, especially because Donald Trump's approval rating looks like this. Take a look. He's not just at his personal lowest. He has the worst net approval rating of any president at this point. He's sitting at minus 32 points. Joe Biden, whom Donald Trump loved to attack over the economy, was at minus 25, 7 points better. George W. Bush, also minus 25, 7 points better. And Jimmy Carter, the president Trump loves to mock, was at minus 22, a full 10 points better than where Trump sits right now. Donald Trump is making history that no president wants to make. No president has ever been this unpopular at this point in their presidency. Period. Full stop. Historically, catastrophically unpopular. And we're not supposed to believe that maybe, just maybe, Donald Trump wanted something to happen to boost his standing, wanted a justification for his ballroom, a pretext for deploying troops, a reason to say you can't criticize the president online. We're not supposed to entertain that possibility. Donald Trump started a manufactured conflict to stop us from talking about the Epstein files. You think he wouldn't pull something just as audacious to rescue his approval rating? The fact that we're asking these questions says everything about where we stand as a country, and I am going to keep calling it out because the mainstream media won't. If you want to support that work, hit the subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you made it to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep fighting, don't be silenced, and until next time, I'll see you.